This is Earth, once thought to be the only planet that can sustain life. All life on Earth began as simple microorganisms. But life then evolved into endless varieties and species. They developed adaptations to thrive in the many ecological niches available on Earth. In the quest to discover new life forms, xenobiologists traveled the universe in search of planets that could sustain its own array of life forms. At the edge of the universe, one of the teams, Team 34, discovered a new planet. This is Noctis Aeternum, aptly named for being a planet in perpetual night. Unlike Earth, Noctis Aeternum does not orbit a sun. This planet is very similar to Earth. However, the absence of the sun also makes this planet very cold. Temperatures here can range from 10 degrees to negative 20 degrees. The life form here must develop adaptations if it was to survive. Here, fungi predominate as the main flora. Similar to Earth's life form, the flora represents the primary producers of this planet. There are also herbivores that are the primary consumers of this planet, which consumes the fungi and the plants. And then there are carnivores that represent the consumers higher up the food chain that feed on the herbivores and other animals.
At the top of the food chain is the aptly named phoenix wolf. It produces red bioluminescence, but as a means of intraspecies communications, and it to need measure to both produce and maintain its homeostasis temperatures. Red bioluminescence travel in longer wavelength of 600 nanometers. Unlike blue bioluminescence, which travel further in aquatic environments. Red bioluminescence travel better through the air. Red globes are also less detectable as it requires the specialist eyes. Being a predator, this makes it ideal as intraspecific communication amongst other phoenix wolves while not revealing its positions. Phoenix wolf resembles the wolf found on Earth, but it is largest in size. It possesses calcified armor in some of the body parts, including neck and face, to shield it from injury during territory dispute. The phoenix wolf has a pair of wings which enable it to travel long distance in search for food and new territory. Leather appendages are present at some part of the phoenix wolf. These are semi-transparent and packed with channels for the bioluminescence. These are more pronounced in male. While sharing many similarities to a wolf is an endotherm, this creature is yet to be classified as an mammal, as it also possesses the multiple lung chambers found in birds. For cooling down and high oxygen absorption during flight, its feature could possibly be due to convergence evolution trait in an Earth-like world. The first line of defense against the cold is insulative fur. Mammalian fur is comprised of different types. The top layers are guard hair. Guard hair are longer, coarser, and have nearly straight shafts that protrude through the layers of softer down hair. The distal end of the guard hair is the visible layers of most mammals' coat. This layer has the most marked pigmentations and gloss, manifesting as coat markings that are adapted for camouflage or display. Guard hair repels water, protecting the undercoat from wetness. Guard hairs can also reduce the severity of cut or scratch to the skin. On hair and on down can be thought of as an intermediate between guard and down hair. On hair begin their growth much like guard hair, but less than halfway to their full length. On hair starts to grow thin and wavy like down hair. The proximate part of the on hair assists in thermoregulations, whereas the distal part can shed water like the guard hair. The on-hair thin basal portion does not allow the amount of sterile reactions that the stiffer guard hair are capable of. Mammals with well-developed down and guard hairs also usually have large numbers of on-hairs, which may even sometimes be the bulk of visible coat. Ground hair, also known as undercoat or ground hair, is the bottom or inner layers composed with wavy or curly hairs with no straight portions or sharp point. Down hair, which are also flat, tends to be the shortest and most numerous in the coat. Thermoregulation is the principal function of the down hairs, which insulate a layer of dry air next to the skin. This layer works together to keep the organism's skin dry and allow warm air to be held together to the skin and reduce the heat conductances from the bodies to the environment. Autonomic mechanisms also modify insulative characteristics of the body surface. When cold, pterygoid muscles raises the pelage layers to increase and trap still warm air. This creates many convection loops within the fur layer. These pilomotor reflexes are also used to raise guard hair as part of a threat display when agitated.
Immediately under the fur and skin layer lies a fat layer. Apart from its fur, fats also play an important role in the survival of the phoenix wolf. These fats are a combination of brown fats and white fats, with the brown fats being the most important for the thermoregulation of the wolf. Brown fats are stored in the brown adipose tissues, otherwise known as BAT, which are located in the neck, shoulders and the upper spine of the wolf, allowing for non-shivering thermogenesis. To maintain the necessary amount of brown fat, the wolf must consume foods that are high in acylic acid. The absorption of acylic acid is important in producing brown fats and muscle mass for the phoenix wolf. Brown fat reserves are more widespread, and brown fats also occur in higher quantities in the phoenix wolf compared to the urban wolves, to better equip it against the cold environment. Bats contain more lipid droplets and a much higher concentration of mitochondria than the white adipose tissues, which causes the bat to look brown in color. Bats also contain much more capillaries than the white adipose tissues to distribute the heat produced through the body. The mitochondria in white adipose tissues are mainly used to produce energy in the form of adenosine triphosphate, also known as ATP. The energy is then stored as a proton gradient in the mitochondrial inner membrane. This energy is then used to synthesize ATP through the ATP synthase enzyme when protons travel across the membrane. The brown adipose tissues are different from the white adipose tissues in that the mitochondria are mainly used to produce heat instead of ATP. This process is activated by the sympathetic nervous system through the release of norepinephrine. The mitochondria of the brown adipose tissues allow the protons to move along the gradient to only produce heat instead of ATP. This can occur due to the presence of an uncoupling protein. This protein is called uncoupling protein 1, otherwise known as thermogenin. The thermogenin allows for the protons that are pumped out of the mitochondria to return, thus inhibits the proton from coupling of oxidative phosphorylation. The energy from this is then released as heat, therefore allowing the wolf to maintain a sustainable source of heat. This heat then travels through the capillaries to the other parts of the body.
Here, the capillaries also play a part in controlling the loss of heat to the external environment. Blood leaving the heart is closer to core body temperature, whereas venous blood returning from the peripheral are significantly cooler. Through autonomic control of the blood flow, more capillaries open to regulate the amount of heated blood to the periphery, and other parts of the body based on its needs to concentrate heat, such as to transfer heat to a cub or to cool off if need be. Inversely, the blood capillaries can also divert blood away from the extremities and skin area with vasomotor adjustments through closing off capillaries or by shunts. By doing this, it limits the amount of blood flowing to the periphery and change the temperature gradient between skin surface and the surrounding, hence to change the heat flux at the body surface. Countercurrent heat transfer between blood capillaries further contribute to the conservation of body heat by preventing dissipation. It also aids the efficiency of heat transfer to other parts of the body. In this mechanism, two capillaries with opposite flow directions are situated close to each other. This keeps a differential in temperature between the two capillaries throughout its entire course. Heat is transferred from the warmer capillary to the colder capillary through convection. Blood in the warmer capillary will completely cool, while blood in the cooler capillary will completely warm up. When the capillaries divert from each other, the initial cooler capillary will be as warm as the original capillary.
Blood flowing into the skeletal muscles warms it up, enabling it to conduct physical activity. As skeletal muscles contract through physical work, heat is produced. The phoenix wolf adopts behavioral strategies that enable it to cope, changing its posture and seeking shelter from high-velocity cold winds helps it reduce the rate of heat dissipation. The creature can further do so by veiling itself with its wings the same way bats do to protect itself, while trapping a layer of warm air against its body. Huddling together with other members of the pack is another way of safe heat from dispersing. Whenever the body temperature falls, cold receptors in the skin and body are stimulated and they send signals to the brain. The signals are sent to lateral parabrachial nucleus. These cells then send signal to preoptic area in the hypothalamus near the wall of the third ventricle. These signals causes the animal to shiver. Shivering occurs when the skeletal muscle groups are involuntarily driven to contract simultaneously, thereby producing heat. It is an energy-efficient way to keep the muscles warm, as all the energy is concentrated to produce heat rather than physical work. Heat production during cold exposure can be increased by nearly 3 to 4 times through shivering. However, all the heat-conserving methods mean very little if an animal is unable to first acquire a source of heat. In all animals, the primary heat source is from the food it eats. For the phoenix wolf, this would be from the prey it kills. Through the exothermic reaction of digestion, food is broken down into simpler forms of sugars and amino acids. Heat is produced as a byproduct during these processes, which accounts for 75% of the energy consumed. The remaining molecules combine with the oxygen in the cells and are used to form ATP. ATP supplies kinetic energy for physical activities like running, flying, and other activities such as skeletal muscle contraction associated with postural maintenance. Increased muscular activity in turn influences the rise of heart rate and metabolic rate. When in intense physical activity, skeletal muscles contract more intensely and frequently, requiring higher volume of oxygen to fill the muscles. Heart rate increases to pump the required oxygen to the muscles through dilated blood arteries. The higher current of blood creates friction to the capillaries, warming up the surrounding muscles internally and externally. Phoenix wolves have a pair of legs and a pair of wings situated within the pectoral area, close to the heart. When moving, this mass of muscle generates large amounts of heat close to the heart, which can then be siphoned off into various parts of the body.
These adaptations allow the phoenix wolf to be perfectly at home in its environment. Noctis aeternum may be a dark and harsh word, but still life found a way. The creatures here are fascinating and filled with wonders. Our team is grateful to be able to discover this world and its habitats. We will send more updates on further discovery of life form here on Noctis Aeternum.